Hi and welcome back. Well, yesterday we hiked the Burrell-Schmidt Tunnel. Here's the thumbnail for that video if you'd like to go watch it. And we made it to Fossil Falls Campground before dark. Fossil Falls Campground is located about 165 miles north of Los Angeles, right along California Highway 395, at the base of the Eastern Sierra Nevada mountains. The campground states there are 11 first-come, first-served campsites with drinking water, restrooms, tables, and fire rings. RV sites are available and well-suited for medium-sized RVs. The fee is $6 per night, and the stay limit is 14 days. Well, let me tell you, they need to update the description for sure. Restrooms? There's one pit toilet. I have not seen any drinking water, but then again, I haven't really looked for it. Regarding the fee, well, the sign where you pay has been flooded out, knocked over, and the fee box has been vandalized, broken into, and mangled. Also, there are no envelopes to stuff your cash. Here's an update. It's been that way for a couple years. The Coso Volcanic Field is well known to drivers along Highway 395, even if they don't realize they're driving right past it. Its most visible landmark is a dramatic maroon cinder cone dubbed Red Hill, and you can clearly see it from the road. And that's it, straight ahead. The Red Hill cinder cone itself rises in almost perfect symmetry to a flattened bowl at the top. There are indigenous legends that go back 700 years, which marks the last activity of this geological behemoth by nicknaming it the Growler. The growling was mere mumbling of the earth falling dormant. These last gaps of activity through the chambers and tunnels deep within the earth were heard, felt, and remembered by the local native residents. Red Hill is believed to have been formed between 10 and 14,000 years ago. The cinder cone is composed primarily of scora, a type of volcanic rock resembling pumice. By definition, cinder cones are steep cone-shaped piles of volcanic debris, such as ash and hardened magma, but built up around vents. Visiting Red Hill, you would think you have been transported to the surface of Mars. We're going to backtrack down Highway 395 almost to where it merges with the 14 because we need to go to Pearsonville. If you recall, on my previous video, the Burrell-Schmidt Tunnel, it was getting dark and we had to get going, so we bypassed this little gym, but now we're going to go back and check it out. Pearsonville, California is known as the Hubcap capital of the world, or should I say was. The Uniroyal gal, known as Hubcap Lucy, in honor of longtime town resident Lucy Pearson, queen of hubcaps, she has been a fixture of Pearsonville for decades. She now stands in front of the local park playfield. Her paint is faded from the Mojave Desert sun, but she can easily be seen from Highway 395 through the trees. Now primarily an automotive scrapyard, Pearsonville once had the Pearsonville Speedway and the no-name trailer park. It also claimed to be the hubcap capital of the world, where Lucy Pearson would help you search for a long-lost hubcap among the 80,000 she had in stock. Hubcap dealers from Los Angeles used to regularly stop by Pearsonville to bring back hubcaps to the city and sell them for twice the price. International Fiberglass made several types of fiberglass statues, including the hard-to-find Uniroyal girls. The Uniroyal girl is the female equivalent of the Muffler Man and looks a lot like Jackie Kennedy. She was originally built in the 1960s for Uniroyal Tire in order to advertise their stores. By 1970, she was available in the International Fiberglass catalog for $3,150 as Miss America. Uniroyal girls were 18 feet tall and weighed 230 pounds. The town of Pearsonville and the 80,000 hubcaps are now all long gone, but the hubcap lady still stands watching over Highway 395, although faded and sun-weathered. There are only a few of these gals around in West Virginia, Florida, Idaho, New Jersey, North Carolina, Alberta, a few in Illinois, and Texas. If you're traveling, keep your eyes peeled for that Uniroyal gal. My next stop on the 395 North takes us back in time. Does anybody remember this episode of The Twilight Zone? Season 2, Episode 23 of The Twilight Zone was filmed in Olancha, California at the Airflite Café. The show aired on CBS on April 7th, 1960. During the filming, it was actually named Frank and Ann's Airflite Cafe, but it was changed to Joe's Airflite Cafe for the show. In the episode 100 Yards Over the Rim, a 1847 wagon train led by Christian Horn leaves the group and sets off to find help for his ill son, and then stumbles into the present-day 1960s diner. Cliff Robertson starred along with Ed Platt from Get Smart and John Alston from Addams Family. The wagon train sequences were filmed out in Olancha Dunes. The cafe was probably named after the airstrip nearby, behind the now defunct ranch, motel, and cabins. If you look closely, that wood cribbing is actually holding up the rounded front Art Deco porch overhang. Someone at some time knew the importance of this building and tried to preserve it. I hope it continues. It's been reported by the cafe and motel owners that they knew a lot of Hollywood stars back in the day. They would fly up to hunt and fish in the eastern Sierras. It's a place in the middle of nowhere where a famous person could partake in activities and not be seen by the Hollywood media. Directly across the street is an old abandoned gas station, so when you're driving north up that 395, keep your eyes peeled if you'd like to see it. I know I must have passed this thing probably a dozen times and never knew what it was. I'm so glad I got to stop and see it before its demise, or hopefully somebody will restore it and turn it into a Twilight Zone museum. Wouldn't that be awesome? Might have to look into that. Just up the road on the east side is something I've seen many times but just never stopped to check it out. But I am this time. Like I've said before, Highway 395 is great for road tripping. There's so many things to see along the way. You could spend weeks sightseeing and still not see it all. One of those things is the Olancha Sculpture Garden. Literally, right off the 395, there's a dirt road turnoff. Just look along the road, and you'll see the sculptures just peeking over the brush. The location is just a few minutes north of the Airflite Cafe, and just before the town of Olancha on the east side of Highway 395. The Olancha Sculpture Garden is a unique philosophy of the life by artist Yael Hoffman. It wasn't until I turned off the highway and kind of entered the area that I realized how many there were. There's all kinds. Like, as soon as you enter the area or turn off the highway, you're greeted with this one titled Earthbound and Beyond. This one is titled Veil of Secrecy. How about Momentary Balance? Or Joyous Exchange. This one is titled Constant Change. This one's really cool. It's Cleaning House. Topography of Belief. The clouds blew by and gave me no light. So sorry. This one is titled Up and Out. And this one has a little man in the mouth chipping away at the teeth, and it's titled Detoothing the Monster. This one with the gel cell face is titled Caught. This is the largest one, and you can see it good from the 395. It's titled The Hitchhiker. And this one is Be Kind, Not Right. I did not realize how many were out here. It's incredible. If you'd like to know more about her, here's her website. She did have an installation in Death Valley, and it was removed because of vandalism and theft. But I think my favorite right here is called Give or Take, and those are little buckets that open. I think it's my favorite because there was actually a mirror and I could see myself. There was nothing I wanted to take, but I did give some cash. And you all have to come out here and check this out because it's pretty fascinating. So right up here, I'm going to turn left to go back to the highway. But if you turn right, up the road a bit is some homes. And because of this really cute sign that says, private property, trespassers will be devoured. I have a feeling she probably has her studio up there in those homes somewhere. Well, there you go. That is a quick tour of the Olancha Sculpture Gardens. Just a hop, skip, and a jump is the next attraction on the east side of the 395 is the Lemon House Inn. The Lemon House was not always an inn, and it wasn't always yellow. The Funky Dome was originally constructed by Vernon Lawson sometime around 2006. Back then, the structure was white. Lawson believes it may have been an old surplus fiberglass weather station of sorts. Lawson covered it in spray foam and added windows and painted it the same yellowish color as his 1997 Volkswagen, Chinster Yellow. He then called it Yellow Dome. At the time of my visit, it looks a little tangerine-y to me, but I'm not sure. Maybe I'm a little colorblind. Around 2009, the metal cactuses and the dinosaur sculpture were added, made by the late Bakersfield artist George Green. While I was doing my research, I found these photos online, and they look a little bit more ginster yellow, like his 97 Volkswagen. I also could not go inside because it was occupied at the time, but here's a glimpse of what the inside looks like, and I guess everything in here has to do with lemons. Lawson sold it to Manuel Alvarez in 2021, who then renamed it the Lemon House. A lot of people says it looks like a lemon, said Alvarez. My brother and I fixed it all up for the hikers to stay in, as the Lemon House Inn is not far from the Mount Whitney portal in the Eastern Sierras. They also remodeled the adjacent motel and added more accommodations. Whether you're just passing by or staying in the Lemon House Inn bungalows, please don't disturb the people in the Lemon House, as it could make for a very sour experience. Here's a fun fact. Mount Whitney is the tallest mountain in the contiguous United States. About 7 miles from Cargo, where the Lemon Tree Inn was, and about 13 miles before Lone Pine, traveling north on the 395, a white California historical marker popped into view. They can be such a treat, but you have to look close and prepare to exit quickly, as they do not give you much time. This is California Registered Historical Marker Landmark number 537, dedicated on September 14th, 1955, the Cottonwood Charcoal Kilns. The monument plaque is located right off the highway, and the charcoal kilns are located about a mile further down this graded dirt road. The Cottonwood charcoal kilns are an historical remnants and reminder of an abundant silver mining in the 1870s at the Cerro Gordo mine high in the Inyo Range above Keeler. Charcoal from the kilns was shipped across Owens Lake by steamer and then by wagon to the mine. An estimated 17 million in silver bullion came from Cerro Gordo. If you want to check out Cerro Gordo, I went a few years back and volunteered to help restore a cabin, which has now been converted into the library. Here's a thumbnail if you'd like to go see that video. Back then, I didn't do any talking in the videos, and that's about the time my mom kept saying, "You need to tell me what you're seeing." So you may like that style of video better. All right, moving on. In June of 1873, Colonel Sherman Stevens built a sawmill and flume on Cottonwood Creek high in the eastern Sierras directly west of this spot. The flume connected with the Los Angeles Bullion Road, now Highway 395. The lumber from the flume was used to timber the mine and buildings, and the wood was turned into charcoal in these beehive kilns. I know they don't seem like much today, but here's an old photo of them back in the day, and a few decades later, and currently. After decades of being out in the weather, you can still see the black burn, is that called creosote? From the fires that were inside the kilns. Pretty amazing. And if you notice, you can see the chain link fence that surrounds both these kilns. And looking at this photo, do you see anything missing? Yeah, the plaque. Someone stole the plaque. Unbelievable. And it used to have a cover over them to protect them that was built in 2010. Did someone steal that too? Good Lord. Alright, this is where they turned the wood into charcoal. And just down this road is where they took that charcoal and put it on one of the two steamers. The Molly Stevens, which I think the colonel named after his daughter, and the Bessie Brady. So let's drive on down to the docks at the edge of Owens Lake, or once was Owens Lake. Just a hop, skip, and a jump, and we arrive at the docks. Let me just put a disclaimer here. When I say the docks, I'm assuming this was the docks. It could be part of the flume, but the problem is there is no information that actually has a picture of this or says what it was. We know Owens Lake is almost dry, and the charcoal kilns were close by, so I'm going with docks. When I said earlier what was Owens Lake, you're looking at it. You can't really see it, but way out in the distance there is some water. When Los Angeles came about, they sucked this lake dry, but then we had a dust problem. So now they keep it at a very minimum level, just wet. So most areas, I think you can almost walk across it in the summertime. Anyhow, thirsty Los Angeles, there you go. Once the charcoal was loaded on either the Bessie Brady or the Molly Stevens, it sailed directly across the lake. And from there, in the town of Keeler, it was loaded onto horse or mule-drawn wagons and brought up the yellow grade to the Cerro Gordo mine. Mortimer Belshaw, one of the stakeholders at Cerro Gordo, which translates to Fat Hill, used up all the lumber of the trees in the surrounding area and really needed that charcoal to keep his furnaces going to process that silver. At the kilns, the wood was loaded inside via a small door on front. Once full, the door was closed and the wood was set ablaze. Vents controlled the speed of the burn, and after about 10 days, the wood became a much-needed charcoal that the Cerro Gordo smelters hungered for. Did you know? Charcoal burns much longer and hotter than wood. And it came from wood. Crazy. I guess I feel kind of lucky that I got to see these two Cottonwood charcoal beehive kilns before they slowly deteriorate back to the earth. What a cool billboard using an old water tank. All right, since we're talking about Keeler, charcoal kilns, Cerro Gordo, let's put everything in perspective just for a quick second. Okay, this is Owens Dry Lake, or shall we call it damp lake bed. Here is the Cottonwood charcoal kilns. Here is Keeler, and here is Cerro Gordo. Just before Lone Pine, we're going to hang a right on Highway 136 and head to Keeler to check it out. Now you can understand why they used a steamboat, because it is directly across the lake from the kilns to Keeler. Otherwise, they'd have to go all the way around on wagon train. What a time saver that was. Just up here, I'm going to hang a right off of the 395 onto California Highway 136. and get to Keeler. But I'm going to go past Keeler about a quarter mile to the road that takes you to Cerro Gordo Mines. I think the road was 7 miles to get there, and here it is, straight ahead. That's the road to Cerro Gordo. And right straight ahead up there, just a bit to the left, as the car turns, that top of that hill there is Cerro Gordo Mines. You do need a 4x4 to get up there, but I have seen people make it in minivans. Anyhow, let's take a look at the plaques. Well, I'm glad they gave Cerro Gordo a point of historical interest sign, but they could have done better with their little plaque on a rock in the middle of this pullout. Brent, his channel is Ghost Town Living. The guy who owns Cerro Gordo and is rebuilding it, he put up a really cool sign. It wasn't there when I went up to volunteer. Again, that's the thumbnail for the movie when I went up to Cerro Gordo. Right across the street, that's Owens Lake, dry lake bed, but it's a little moist in the center. And right here is the town of Keeler. So let's go and explore. The town of Keeler, formerly known as Holly, is an unincorporated community in Inyo County, California. Keeler is located on the east shore of Owens Lake, about 10 miles southeast of Lone Pine on State Route 136. The population in 2020 was 71 people, up from 66 in 2010. When the 1872 Lone Pine earthquake hit, it rendered the pier in a nearby town inaccessible by uplifting the shoreline. A new pier was constructed to the south of Holly. In 1880, a new mill was constructed at Holly by the Owens Lake Mining and Milling Company for processing silver ore from the Cerro Gordo mines. A town was laid out by the company agent Julius M. Keeler, for whom the town of Holly was later renamed. This is the long-abandoned municipal swimming pool at Keeler, looking towards the Sierras. In February of 2024, Karen Riggs started a petition on change.org to recreate the seasonal swimming pool and support a year-round wildlife refuge at the Keeler plunge site. It's an historic pool, hand-dug in 1927. It is 33 feet by 86 feet and 5 feet deep. The pool and its artesian well were a community asset, and the opportunity exists again. Slim Hernandez, a longtime Keeler resident, was part of the building crew. I've heard that Hollywood honchos like Fatty Arbuckle visited the favorite watering hole. A unconfirmed story has Johnny Weissmuller, the original Tarzan, practicing here for the Olympics. Looking out in the distance to Owens Lake, and if I pan to the right, you can see some leftover wood pilings. I wonder if that's remnants of the Keeler Pier from back in the day. Let's take a drive through Keeler and see what we can find. This resident looks pretty modern, updated, and occupied, so that's a good sign. The steamships brought the charcoal to Keeler to be sent up the hill to Cerro Gordo and took the silver from the Cerro Gordo mine back across the lake to the town of Cartago. I guess I spoke a bit too soon. Man, I would love to buy that shack and redo it, wouldn't you? Back then, there was a 300-foot wharf at Keeler, and the steamship route cut days off the time a freight wagon could have taken to circle the lake. She carried 700 ingots at a time in a 3-hour crossing, but in 1882, the Bessie Brady was destroyed by fire. The Carson and Colorado Railroad constructed a narrow-gauge railway to Keeler in 1883. The success of Cerro Gordo mines caused Keeler to boom until the silver prices plummeted in the late 19th century. To the left is an old fire truck, and behind that looks like the fire station. Directly to the right is the old post office. Pretty awesome. And this is a block over with the fire truck and the post office in the background. Pretty cool. This old building gives me vibes of an old hotel, maybe? I don't know. Obviously, there's no signs that said what these structures are, but who knows? Overall, Keeler's got some pretty crazy remnants from the past, like this wall that says famous ABC beer on it. All right, let's get back to the story. A second boom of zinc mining in the early 20th century brought new life to the town, and an aerial cable tramway was built to bring the ore from Cerro Gordo to Keeler. There were small surges in the mining of silver, lead, zinc, and limestone, but by the 1950s, all mining had ceased. Train service was stopped in 1960, and the tracks were removed in 1961. Water exports from the Owens Valley to the city of Los Angeles in the 1920s led the Owens Lake to eventually dry up, causing alkali dust storms to blow through Keeler, driving many residents away. Straight ahead in them there hills is where the Cerro Gordo mines are. Dust remediation efforts in the early 21st century reduced this problem, but few residents remained. The post office still operates in Keeler, established in 1883. Different films have been filmed in Keeler, such as Outlaws of the Desert, 1941, Sinister's Journey, 1948, and The Blazing Sun of 1950. Let's head west about 10 miles and check out the town of Lone Pine. And I say it that way because that's how my mom used to say it. Alrighty then. Lone Pine is located in the Owens Valley near the Alabama Hills and Mount Whitney, between the eastern peaks of the Sierra Nevada to the west and the Inyo Mountains to the east. The town is named after a solitary pine tree that once existed at the mouth of the Lone Pine Canyon. On March 26, 1872, the very large Lone Pine earthquake destroyed most of the town and killed 27 of its estimated 270 residents. A cabin was built here during the winter of 1861. A settlement developed over the following 2 years, and the Lone Pine Post Office opened in 1870s. In 1920, the history of Lone Pine was dramatically altered when a movie production company came to the Alabama Hills to make the silent film The Roundup. And that brings us to our first stop, the Museum of Western Film History. This place looks like something you would see in Hollywood for sure, yet it's located in the quaint town of Lone Pine with a population of about 2,300 people. The museum has charging stations, and if you're a hiker, extended parking is available. Also, it is pet friendly. Upon entering the museum, the first display is a bunch of, I think, the original YouTubers' cameras. This museum is packed full. It is absolutely amazing. One of the most important movies filmed in and around Lone Pine was High Sierra, 1941, starring Humphrey Bogart as Roy Earl in the role that moved Bogart from respected supported player to a leading man, and there's the car. Wow. Another exhibit that I found very fascinating, as I have a nephew that's just starting college and going into film school, is the camera truck, I guess. Can you imagine this old truck with all the cameras mounted on it? Wow, absolutely amazing. Hey Jack, let me know if you get to study anything about RKO radio pictures from the past. I'd be very interested to hear about it. The exhibits are absolutely amazing. It looks like the 2008 Iron Man movie was filmed in and around Lone Pine. That's just crazy. Who would have thought about it, you know? And the movie Tremors. Oh my God. This place, if you're ever in the Lone Pine area, take a moment and go check out this museum. It really is amazing. The museum collection is one of the largest and most significant in the United States, and it holds an annual Lone Pine Film Festival that features 3 days of screenings, panels, Western authors, and Hollywood professional presentations. geographical movie site tours featuring the landscape of the Alabama Hills and the Eastern Sierras. This landscape is the venue to over 400 films and 1,000 commercials. And folks, it's located in beautiful downtown Lone Pine. And since I keep bringing up the Alabama Hills, I think it's time we go take a drive through. Now, I'm not going to show you a lot because I plan to come back and do the movie road tour and do a really good video on all of that at a later date. But located right behind the museum is really the Alabama Hills. And it's a range of rock formations near the eastern slope of the Sierra Nevada in the Owens Valley west of Lone Pine. In this area is where John Wayne rode in 12 movies, Hoot Gibson, Buck Jones, Ken Maynard, as well as Gene Autry and Roy Rogers, and also Hopalong Cassidy filmed many movies. The Alabama Hills were named for the CSS Alabama, a Confederate warship deployed during the American Civil War. When the news of the ship's demise reached prospectors in California sympathetic to the Confederates, they named many mining claims after the ship, and the name came to be applied to the entire range. The Alabama was sunk off the coast of Normandy by the USS Kearsarge in 1864. Prospectors sympathetic to the Union named a mining district, a mountain pass, a mountain peak, and a town after the Kearsarge. Tit for tat. Okay, that's enough of the Alabama Hills. Like I said, I'm going to come back and do a whole vid on this area because I found it very fascinating. A lot of history. And so you have to stay tuned. As we head back to that quaint little town of Lone Pine, let me give you some more details. During the 1870s, Lone Pine was an important supply town for several nearby mining communities, including Cerro Gordo, Keeler, Swansea, and Darwin. Railroads played a major role in development of Lone Pine and the Owens Valley. In 1883, the Carson and Colorado Railway line was constructed from Belleville, Nevada, across the White Mountains to Benton, and then down into the Owens Valley, where it ended in Keeler. Much of the local economy is based on tourism, as the town is between several major tourist destinations, such as Mount Whitney, Sequoia National Park, Kings Canyon National Park, Mammoth Mountains, Death Valley National Park, and Yosemite National Park. Many motels line the main road through town. On March 26, 1872, at 2:30 a.m. local time, the Lone Pine earthquake struck in the Owens Valley. Its magnitude had been estimated at 7.4 to 7.9. It was one of the most powerful earthquakes to hit California in recorded history, and was similar in strength to the 7.9 1906 San Francisco earthquake. 27 people were killed and 56 were injured. The earthquake occurred on a Tuesday morning and leveled almost all of the buildings in Lone Pine and nearby settlements. Of the estimated 250 to 300 inhabitants of Lone Pine, 27 are known to have perished and 52 of the 59 houses were destroyed. One report states that the main buildings were thrown down in almost every town in Inyo County. In the heart of downtown Lone Pine is Jake's Saloon. There is a plaque out in front that talks about a standing piece of an adobe wall from that earthquake. And what's crazy is, behind Jake's Saloon in the alley is that wall still standing. Well, what's left of it. I find that absolutely fascinating, and I am so glad they are preserving it and protecting it. I think that's very cool. So if you're ever nearby in Lone Pine, make sure you go behind Jake's Saloon into the alley and check out the bit of the last standing adobe wall from that 1872 earthquake. Heading north out of Lone Pine, I saw a historical marker sign, caught my eye, and I turned left at the first road, and I didn't see anything, so I had to turn around and go back, and then I was on this little dirt road next to the real road, because I could in my truck, and found what this was about. The 1872 earthquake was felt strongly as far away as Sacramento, where citizens were startled out of bed and into the streets. Extensive rock slides in what is now Yosemite National Park woke naturalist John Muir, then living in Yosemite Valley, who reportedly ran out of his cabin shouting, "A noble earthquake!" and promptly made a moonlit survey of the fresh piles. The earthquake stopped clocks and wakened people in San Diego to the south, Red Bluff to the north, and Elko, Nevada to the east. The shock was felt over most of California and much of Nevada. Thousands of aftershocks occurred, some very severe. Researchers later estimated that similar earthquakes occur on the Lone Pine Fault every 3,000 to 4,000 years. However, the Lone Pine Fault is only one of many faults on two parallel systems. We're approaching the common grave of the earthquake victims, and it's now registered as California Historical Landmark number 507, assigned on July 31st, 1953. The National Historic Landmark reads, number 507, grave of 1872 earthquake victims. On March 26, 1872, a major earthquake shook Owens Valley, nearly destroying the town of Lone Pine. About 14 of its victims, the exact number is not known, were interned in a common grave enclosed by this fence. This is probably not the time or really the place to vent a little, but I live in California and it's very expensive to live here. I don't understand why the state can't maintain these sites a little better. Climbing up the hill from that highway and having to go through bushes and weeds, which I don't mind that they're there, but at least clear the path so we can get up here and view this. And then you get here and it just looks like nobody cares. If I lived in this area, I'd take it upon myself to come and trim this place up and clean it. Well, at least they give us a flag, right? I have no idea what this separate little fenced-in possible grave is, because again, there's no signage that says nothing. But anyhow, there you go. The common grave of at least 14 victims from the 1872 Lone Pine earthquake. All right, here's where we've been this morning. Hubcap, capital of the world, Fossil Falls Campground, Twilight Zone, Airflite Café, Olancha, Sculpture Garden, Lemon House Inn, Cottonwood Charcoal Kilns, Keeler, Lone Pine, Museum of Western Film, Alabama Hills, and the site of the 1872 Lone Pine earthquake. Oof, what a morning. And the trip will continue on the next episode. Alrighty, as always, thanks for watching and love you, Mom.